Hello, this is Karol V. Brown, and I'm here with you today to read another chapter from my book, The Harriet Tubman Way, The Inspirational Guide to Self-Love, Empowerment, and Legendary Leadership for Girls and Women, and men can get a lot from it as well. I am doing this reading in honor of Women's History Month. So I'm speaking not just about Harriet Tubman, but as you see all the beautiful women on the cover of the thumbnail for this presentation and these talks, all those women are quoted in the book. And so I also share some of their wisdom and we talk about it. This isn't a curriculum. We're teaching self-love, how to be a great servant leader, and also leave a legacy of love. This is an important program, and I hope that you will see the value of listening yourself and sharing it with others. I particularly want to reach grandmothers because I know that in the lives of most young girls, grandmothers have that unconditional love that they can go to for support. And so, grandmothers, I'm reaching out to you well as anyone else who's interested. I am willing to do a one-on-one consultation. You can go to my website and connect with me, or also a group workshop, a mini workshop. So just these are different ways we can connect, and I'm ready to connect with you. So let's start with the chapter. Chapter 15, Listen and Learn. My mother said I must always be intolerant of ignorance, but understanding of illiteracy. That some people unable to go to school were more educated and more intelligent than college professors. That's Dr. Maya Angelou. I can't read, but I can learn. Now, I never did learn to read or write. But I did learn to listen, and I learned from what other folks knew and talked about. Learning from other folks helped me understand this world better. What I learned helped me make my own decisions about what was wrong and what was right. Even though most of my white friends were well educated and I was not, they learned from me too. After I got free, I spent a good part of my years traveling around to the abolitionist meetings in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts. I made new friends. One of my friends was Franklin B. Sanborn. He was a writer for a newspaper. Mr. Sanborn took me to the homes of his friends. I was introduced to well-known people, writers, businessmen, bankers, politicians. They was all abolitionists. They spoke about ways to end slavery that I never even thought about. Some of the families, they were rich, and I stayed in their big, beautiful homes. I was there as their guest, and I ate at their tables, and I slept in their guest rooms, not in service rooms. They lived very different lives from me, but that didn't stop us from being friends. I had some good discussions with some folks, smart folks, like Mr. Amos Bronson Alcott. He was a teacher. His daughter, Louisa May Alcott, was a writer. Little Women was the name of one of her books. Mr. Horace Mann was a Massachusetts U.S. House Representative, and Mr. Ralph Waldo Emerson, another writer, was also on the discussions around Boston. Frederick Douglass would be at most of these meetings, and he was the only one besides me who knew what it was like to be a slave. I was sitting around folks that ran newspapers, wrote books, taught in colleges, but I couldn't read or learn what they taught. I didn't have to. I just listened. And I learned about how the government worked, how they made their money, and how they could change folks' minds about slavery by writing in their newspapers. When I told them my stories, they would write it in the newspaper and let folks know how slavery was bad for this country. In other discussions, we talked about how it could take a war to change this country. They talked and I listened about who should be the president and how the right person in the office could end slavery. As I listened, I started to understand how I really did have a right to be free. It was in the paper called the Declaration of Independence. In that paper written long before I was born, it says, all men are created equal. My friend John Henry let me know that I should consider myself as equal as any man. He even called me General Tubman. I said to all those smart people who taught me about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, if you all really believe in these things written long ago, then you all have to continue the struggle and be willing to fight to end slavery. As Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. If that means war, then we need to get ready for war. Before meeting Frederick and me, those white folks had only read about slavery and saw some actors playing like slaves. Some of them had never been in the South. Frederick and I compared life in the North with life in the South for colored people. About growing up as a slave. I taught them the dances we did at the camp meeting back in Maryland and had those folks dancing and singing Go Down Moses and Still Away to Jesus. They learned by listening to us, and we helped them understand why what they did to help was important. I learned enough from my experience and from listening to them to know to tell them what I thought. Now that they knew more about that about what slavery is like. I knew if they were really good people, they couldn't stop their writing and speaking until there was no more slavery in this here country. I was proud that I got to tell my story my way and teach these smart folks something they couldn't learn in school. We got to know, trust, and understand each other just by talking and listening to each other. Listen and learn. Develop your listening skills. Look to increase the diversity and cultural exchange in your groups of friends. This leads to more equality, respect, and informed decisions. Good leaders have great listening skills. Harriet Tubman was not formally educated, but she was smart. She knew how to be an active listener. Education is powerful and life-changing. Listening and hearing are the same but different. Hearing does not necessarily mean understanding what you hear. When you are listening, there is a process of interpretation in order to understand the message. Active listening involves questioning what you heard, getting more information, and being able to respond with an exchange of ideas. Activities. Maya Angelou was born on April 4th, 1928, and died on May 28th, 2014. She was an American writer, poet, singer, and actor. Question 1. Dr. Maya Angelou was a great communicator. Find one of her poems, review it, and be able to explain what you think she was saying in the poem. You might even read it out loud to your group. Here's some journaling activities. Define the following terms that are part of good listening skills: eye contact, visualization, feedback, clarification, nonverbal, questioning, non-judgmental, empathize, don't interrupt, attentiveness. Practice with good listening skills. Go on the internet and find a listening game and teach it to your classmates. So that is the chapter on Listen and Learn, which I think is one of the most valuable chapters to teach our young people how to listen. Listening is a skill that takes practice. I remember as working as a dietitian at the Veterans Hospital that we had classes on active listening. We had classes to pay attention to the body language when someone's speaking, to ask open-ended questions, to be able to say back what you heard, to get clarifications, so you both understand or make sure that what was intended for you to understand was thoroughly understood. This is how you practice good listening skills. So this is a lesson not just about Harriet Tubman, it's all about a good quality that all of us can benefit from developing. Listen and learn. I thank you for being with me today. I'll see you tomorrow.